Think medieval love stories are all grim, tragic tales. Think 12th century romances, ending only in tears and despair. What if we told you that behind the grand castles and the clashing swords, some medieval hearts found surprising joy, against all odds in an era often painted in shades of gray? Number 6. Elizabeth of Hungary and Louis IV of Thuringia. In the early years of the 13th century, across the vast and forested lands of Central Europe, a tale of devotion and profound affection began to unfold, far removed from the usual political maneuvering and arranged marriages that dominated the medieval noble class. This was the story of Elizabeth, a princess from Hungary, and Louis the Landgrave of Thuringia, whose bond defied the conventions of their age. Elizabeth was born in 1207, daughter of King Andrew, the Second of Hungary, and Queen Gertrude. Even as an infant, her destiny was intertwined with the powerful Ludovingian dynasty of Thuringia. At nearly 4 years old, she was betrothed to Louis, the eldest son of Landgrave Hermann I of Thuringia. This was not unusual for the time, as political alliances were forged through the tender years of children. However, what followed was a childhood that ripened into an extraordinary love. Her arrival at the Wartburg Castle in Thuringia, a magnificent fortress perched atop a hill overlooking the town of Eisenach, was met with a mixture of excitement and suspicion. Her future mother-in-law, Sophia, a strong and influential woman, was tasked with raising her alongside her own children, including the young Louis, who was then 11 years old. From the outset, Elizabeth was an unusual child. While the other children engaged in the boisterous games and hunting lessons typical of a noble upbringing, Elizabeth showed an early inclination towards piety. She was often found in quiet contemplation, her small hands clasped in prayer, or offering her meager allowances to the poor peasants who sometimes gathered near the castle gates. This devotion, while admirable to some, caused concern among members of the court. Her austerity and generosity were seen as eccentricities, a potential drain on the family coffers, and a deviation from the expected decorum of a future Landgravine. Despite these early concerns, Louis, her betrothed, developed a deep and abiding affection for her. Unlike his family and many of the courtiers who questioned her fervent faith, Louis found her piety endearing, even inspiring. He saw beyond the unusual practices and recognized the sincerity of her heart. Their childhood together was spent in shared lessons, walks through the castle grounds, and quiet conversations that deepened their understanding of one another. Louis, a young man of chivalrous spirit and a gentle nature, became her staunch protector. He shielded her from the critical whispers of those who found her charitable acts too extravagant or her simple attire too unfitting for her royal status. He defended her when she would quietly slip away from lavish feasts to pray, or when she would give away her jewels to the needy. His unwavering support was the first surprising element of their love story. In an era where marriages were often cold political tacks, their bond grew from genuine fondness and mutual respect, cultivated over years of shared childhood. In 1221, when Elizabeth was 14, the marriage ceremony finally took place. It was a grand affair, fitting for two such prominent families. But unlike many noble unions that felt more like mergers of two kingdoms than a celebration of two souls, the union of Elizabeth and Louis was marked by a palpable sense of shared joy and deep affection. Their love was open and evident to those around them, a rarity in the guarded world of medieval aristocracy. Louis, now Landgrave after his father's death, continued to embrace Elizabeth's unique spiritual path. He did not merely tolerate her devotion. He encouraged it, even participating in some of her charitable endeavors. Elizabeth, now the Landgravine of Thuringia, used her position not for personal gain or extravagant living, but as a platform for her profound Christian. She established hospitals at the foot of the Wartburg, personally tending to the sick and the lepers, often with her own hands. She fed the hungry, clothed the naked, and brought comfort to the suffering. The court often grumbled about the sheer volume of resources she dispersed, the constant stream of paupers she welcomed, and her tendency to adopt a simple lifestyle. Yet, Louis remained her steadfast ally. He would often accompany her on her missions of mercy, carrying baskets of bread or offering words of encouragement to the afflicted. He built an oven specifically to bake bread for the poor, and a mill to grind their grain. His love for Elizabeth was so profound that he saw her acts of charity not as eccentricities, but as expressions of her beautiful soul, and he wished to share in her good works. One famous anecdote, often recounted by those who knew them, illustrates the depth of their unusual bond. Elizabeth, known for her secret acts of charity, was once carrying bread hidden in her cloak to give to the poor, against the implicit wishes of some of her more practical-minded courtiers. Louis, returning from a hunt, met her on a narrow path. Curious, he asked her what she was carrying. When she opened her cloak, instead of bread, he saw a cascade of fresh roses, even though it was the middle of winter. This miraculous event, whether literal or symbolic of Louis's vision of her pure intentions, cemented his unwavering belief in her sanctity and her divine mission. He did not question her, he marveled at her. Their home life, too, was an example of a deeply affectionate partnership. They had 4 children: Hermann, Sophie, Gertrude, and another Agnes who died in infancy. Louis was a devoted father and husband, cherishing his family. He and Elizabeth shared a common bed, which, while customary for the time, was often a source of friction in royal marriages. For Elizabeth and Louis, it was a space of intimacy and spiritual communion. It is said that Louis would sometimes wake early, not to hunt or to attend to affairs of state, but to gently remove Elizabeth's hand from his face, so as not to disturb her prayer while she slept. He understood and respected her intense spiritual life to an extent that was truly exceptional. Their union represented a rare synthesis of spiritual devotion and earthly affection. Louis's love for Elizabeth was not merely physical or political. It was a profound admiration for her spirit. He saw her as an instrument of divine grace and sought to support her in every way possible. She in turn offered him a love that was both tender and empowering, inspiring him to greater acts of piety and compassion. Their love story was a testament to the idea that even in the rigid structures of the medieval world, genuine affection and spiritual kinship could flourish, leading to a deeply fulfilling partnership. Louis, true to his chivalrous nature and his strong faith, answered the call to join the Sixth Crusade in 1227, following the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II. Elizabeth, heartbroken but understanding his spiritual conviction, bade him farewell. It was a sorrowful parting made even more poignant by the deep love they shared. Louis, however, never reached the Holy Land. He fell ill with a plague in Otranto, Italy, and died that same year at the young age of 27. Elizabeth was devastated by the loss of her beloved husband and protector. His death plunged her into a period of profound grief and hardship. Stripped of her powerful advocate at court, she faced renewed hostility from those who had always resented her charitable ways and her influence. Her brother-in-law, Henry Raspe, took over the regency, and in a cruel turn of events, Elizabeth and her young children were expelled from the Wartburg, forced to live in poverty. Yet even in her destitution, Elizabeth maintained her faith and continued her works of charity, often taking refuge in the homes of the poor she had once helped. Though their shared life ended tragically, the happy ending of Elizabeth and Louis's love story lies not in a conventional happily ever after, but in the extraordinary quality and depth of their bond while they lived. It was a relationship founded on mutual respect, unwavering support, and a shared spiritual journey, a beacon of true affection in an age of calculated unions. Louis's profound and unconditional love for Elizabeth, allowed her to fully embrace her calling, shaping her into the saint she would eventually become. Their union was a rare flower of genuine love that bloomed in the hard ground of medieval politics, leaving behind a legacy of piety and compassion that transcended their brief time together. Elizabeth was canonized as a saint just 4 years after her death, a testament to her life, which was deeply shaped and enabled by the unique love and support of her husband, Louis. Their story reminds us that even sorrow can highlight the profound beauty of a love that was truly blessed. Number 5. Matilda of Flanders and William the Conqueror. The 11th century was an era of profound change and brutal power struggles across Europe. The Norman Duchy, a burgeoning force on the continent, was led by William, a man whose ambition was as boundless as his strategic brilliance. But even the mightiest duke needed a partner, a strong hand to stand beside him, and in Matilda of Flanders, William found more than just a political ally. He found a formidable queen, a devoted mother, and a surprisingly enduring love. Their story was not one of gentle courtship, but of stubborn wills, clashing and ultimately merging, forging a dynastic partnership that reshaped the map of England forever. Matilda was the daughter of Baldwin V, Count of Flanders, and Adela of France, a daughter of King Robert II of France. Her lineage was impeccable, placing her among the highest nobility in Europe. William, on the other hand, was the illegitimate son of Robert I, Duke of Normandy, and Herleva, a tanner's daughter. His illegitimacy cast a shadow over his early years, leading to a harsh upbringing and constant struggles to assert his authority against rebellious Norman barons. When William proposed marriage to Matilda around 1049, she, proud of her royal blood, reportedly rejected him outright. The idea of marrying a man born outside the sacred bonds of matrimony, a bastard as he was often called, was an affront to her dignity and her family's reputation. Legend claims that William, known for his fiery temper and unyielding resolve, reacted to her rejection with a display of raw, ducal power. One story, widely repeated by chroniclers like William of Malmesbury, describes William riding to Lille, where Matilda resided, pulling her from her horse by her braids, throwing her to the ground, and perhaps even dragging her through the streets, or beating her. Another version suggests he simply rode into her home and assaulted her. While the exact details are likely embellished over time, the core message remains clear. William was not a man to be refused. His audacious act, far from deterring Matilda, seemed to shock her into a grudging respect, perhaps even a nascent admiration for his sheer audacity and powerful will. After this dramatic confrontation, Matilda supposedly declared that she would marry no man but William. Her father, initially outraged, eventually consented, perhaps recognizing the formidable nature of William's ambition and the strategic advantage of such a union. Their marriage, which took place around 1051 or 1052, was met with a further hurdle: papal interdiction. The Church deemed their union consanguineous, meaning they were too closely related to marry according to canon law. Both William and Matilda were descendants of Rollo, the first Duke of Normandy, through different lines, and their familial ties were within the prohibited degrees. For years their marriage remained under a papal ban, a constant threat to their legitimacy, and a source of potential excommunication. Yet, William and Matilda defied the Church, remaining together and starting a family. They only obtained a dispensation from Pope Nicholas II in 1059, after years of negotiation, and as a condition for building 2 abbeys, one for men and one for women in Caen. This defiance and their eventual success in gaining papal approval underscored their stubborn determination and the strength of their combined wills. Their partnership was one of shared ambition and effective governance. While William was campaigning to consolidate his power and prepare for the momentous invasion of England, Matilda proved herself to be an astute and capable ruler of Normandy in his absence. She served as regent on numerous occasions, demonstrating political acumen, administrative skill, and a firm hand in maintaining order among the often rebellious Norman barons. Chronicles of the period mention her issuing charters, presiding over ducal councils, and managing the duchy's affairs with confidence. Her intelligence and strong character were invaluable assets to William, who clearly trusted her judgment and ability. Matilda also played a crucial role in the Norman conquest itself. Though not a direct military leader, she provided significant financial support for the invasion. She famously commissioned the construction of William's flagship, the Mora, a magnificent vessel adorned with a golden child figure pointing towards England. This act symbolized her unwavering support and her deep personal investment in William's audacious venture. When William sailed for England in 1066, he left Matilda as regent of Normandy, a testament to his absolute faith in her capabilities to rule their home territories during his perilous absence. Following William's victory at the Battle of Hastings and his subsequent coronation, Matilda joined him in England. She was crowned Queen of England on May 11, 1068, in Westminster Abbey, in a ceremony that emphasized her co-sovereignty. The coronation oath included a specific clause that acknowledged her as a queen who was hallowed by God, and who would bear the crown and uphold the kingdom. This was a significant recognition of her unique status as a ruling consort, reflecting the power she wielded. Their marriage produced at least 10 children, including 4 sons who survived to adulthood: Robert Curthose, Richard, William Rufus, and Henry Beauclerc. This large family ensured the continuation of William's dynasty, a key measure of success for any medieval monarch. Despite William's known infidelities, his deep affection for Matilda seemed to endure. He valued her counsel, her intelligence, and her steadfast presence. Chroniclers noted his grief at her passing. When Matilda died in 1083, William was reportedly inconsolable, and his grief affected his own health and vigor. He was never quite the same man after her death, a strong indicator of the profound impact she had on his life. The happy ending of Matilda and William's love story is not found in a fairy tale romance, but in the extraordinary success of their partnership. Despite a turbulent courtship, a papal ban, and the immense challenges of ruling vast territories, they forged a powerful and effective union. Matilda was not merely a consort. She was a co-ruler, a trusted advisor, and a formidable figure in her own right. Their marriage created the Norman dynasty that ruled England for generations, profoundly shaping its history. Their bond, forged in defiance and maintained through shared ambition and mutual respect, was a testament to a love that was tough, enduring, and ultimately triumphant in the face of all odds. Their story exemplifies how a strong, intelligent woman could, against all expectations, find a surprising form of happy ending through power, partnership, and dynastic success in the rough-and-tumble world of medieval kingship. Number 4. Catherine of Valois and Owen Tudor. The 15th century in England was a turbulent age, marked by the 100 Years' War and the simmering tensions that would soon erupt into the Wars of the Roses. In the midst of this political chaos, Catherine of Valois, a French princess who became Queen of England, found herself a young widow with an infant king. Her story took an unexpected turn, defying the rigid expectations for a medieval queen, leading her to a surprisingly happy, albeit controversial, secret life with a handsome Welsh commoner, a union that would, against all odds, lay the foundation for one of England's most famous royal lines. Catherine was born in Paris in 1401, the youngest daughter of King Charles VI of France and Isabeau of Bavaria. Childhood was fraught with the political instability of her father's mental illness and the ongoing 100 Years' War. In 1420, at the age of 18, she became a pawn in the peace negotiations between England and France, famously marrying King Henry V of England under the Treaty of Troyes. This treaty, disinherited the French Dauphin and declared Henry V and his heirs the successors to the French throne. It was a politically grand marriage, uniting the crowns of two warring nations, and, for a brief, glorious period, Henry V encapsuled French Empire. Their union was short-lived. Just 2 years after their marriage, in 1422, Henry V died suddenly of dysentery in France, leaving Catherine a widow at 21 with an infant son. The future Henry VI, who was just 9 months old. As the mother of the new King of England, Catherine held a unique but precarious position. The English Parliament, wary of a foreign Queen Dowager wielding influence, imposed strict regulations on her life. A statute passed in 1427-28 explicitly forbade any person from marrying the Queen Dowager without the King's consent, and by extension the consent of the Council, under penalty of forfeiture of lands and goods. This law was a clear attempt to prevent Catherine from marrying an ambitious English nobleman who might try to gain power through her. It essentially condemned her to a life of celibacy and political isolation. However, Catherine, despite her quiet demeanor, harbored a spirit of independence and a desire for companionship. Living in England, she found herself increasingly drawn to a member of her household retinue, Owen Tudor. Owen was a Welsh squire, a man of humble origins, but with a striking appearance, considerable charm, and a reputation for athleticism. He was part of her household, possibly a clerk of the wardrobe or an esquire, and likely caught her eye through his participation in courtly entertainments, or simply through his steady presence. The exact nature and timeline of their relationship are shrouded in secrecy, largely because it was forbidden. It is believed their connection began around 1428, shortly after the parliamentary statute was enacted. They formed a passionate bond, one that defied all social and legal conventions of the time for a queen. It is thought that they married in secret, perhaps around 1429 or 1431, though no official record exists to prove it. Such a marriage would have been considered treasonous by the English government, jeopardizing not only their lives but also the legitimacy of any children they might have. Despite the immense risks, Catherine and Owen pursued their love. They had at least 6 children together, 4 sons and 2 daughters. Their most significant child for history was Edmund Tudor, born around 1430. Through Edmund, Catherine and Owen would astonishingly become the grandparents of King Henry VII, the founder of the powerful Tudor dynasty. This was the most surprising aspect of their union. A commoner and a queen secretly marrying and giving birth to a line that would eventually claim the throne of England. Their clandestine life eventually came to light. The English government, always suspicious of the Queen Dowager, became aware of her relationship with Owen, probably through the birth of their children. The reaction was swift and severe. In 1436, Owen Tudor was arrested and imprisoned, accused of having unlawfully associated with the Queen. Catherine herself was not formally punished, likely due to her status as the king's mother, but she was sent to Bermondsey Abbey, essentially a form of respectful house arrest, where she was separated from Owen and her children. Catherine's health, already fragile, declined rapidly after this separation. She died in January 1437, just a few months after being confined to the abbey. Her death marked the end of her short but ample life. Owen Tudor, despite his arrest, managed to escape prison several times, engaging in daring adventures, until he was eventually captured and executed in 1461. During the Wars of the Roses, the happy ending for Catherine and Owen lies not in a fairy tale happily ever after in the conventional sense, as their union was secret, turbulent, and ultimately cut short by political realities. However, it was a profound happy ending for Catherine personally. Despite the stringent laws and the immense societal pressure, she chose love and companionship over lonely, royal isolation. She found genuine affection and passion with a man she chose, not one imposed upon her. She bore him children who would become the ancestors of a new royal dynasty. a legacy far beyond what could have been expected for a queen dowager relegated to the sidelines. For a woman trapped by her royal status, finding such personal happiness and leaving such a powerful, albeit indirect, dynastic mark was a truly surprising and profound victory. Their love story, born of defiance and secrecy, gave rise to a new era in English history, proving that even the most forbidden love could bloom and leave an extraordinary mark. Number 3. Margaret of Scotland and Malcolm III. In the mid-11th century, Europe was still reeling from the Norman conquest, an event that reshaped the destiny of kingdoms and families alike. Amidst this upheaval, a young English princess, Margaret, found herself in exile, fleeing the conquering Normans, only to eventually find an unlikely, deeply loving, and remarkably successful partnership with a rugged Scottish king, Malcolm III. Their story is a beacon of genuine affection and shared purpose in an age when royal marriages were almost exclusively matters of political expediency. Margaret was born around 1045, likely in Hungary, where her father, Edward the Exile, a pretender to the English throne, had found refuge during the Danish rule of England. When Edward returned to England in 1057, Margaret came with him, but he died shortly after. After the Norman conquest of 1066, the political landscape of England was irrevocably altered. Margaret, along with her mother and siblings, decided to flee to the safety of Scotland, hoping to find refuge from William the Conqueror's brutal consolidation. Their journey by sea was fraught with peril. A storm reportedly drove their ship north far off course, landing them on the shores of what is now known as St. Margaret's Hope, a cove in Fife, Scotland. There, they were discovered by King Malcolm III of Scotland, a powerful and imposing figure, known for his military prowess and sometimes harsh rule. Malcolm was a widower, having lost his first wife, Ingebjorg Finnsdottir, and had several sons. He was a man of the wild Scottish Highlands in stark contrast to the refined Anglo-Saxon court Margaret was accustomed to. Upon meeting Margaret, Malcolm was immediately captivated by her intelligence, her piety, and her grace. He swiftly proposed marriage, seeing not only a desirable queen, but also a valuable political allegiance, as Margaret's lineage offered a legitimate claim to the English throne, making her a powerful symbol against Norman rule. However, Margaret, a devout Christian, had initially aspired to a life of religious contemplation, perhaps even becoming a nun. She was reportedly reluctant to marry the rough-and-ready Scottish king, and she resisted his advances for some time. It was only after much persuasion, both from her family, who saw the political advantage, and from Malcolm himself, who showed persistent and earnest affection, that she eventually consented to the union. Their marriage took place in 1070 at Dunfermline Abbey. What began as a political alliance quickly blossomed into an extraordinarily deep and loving partnership, defying the expectations of the age. Malcolm, though initially an unpolished warrior king, became utterly devoted to Margaret. He adored her for her piety, her wisdom, and her gentle nature. He reportedly learned to read English from her, simply to be able to read the books she cherished. He valued her counsel above all others, and often sought her advice on matters of state and religion. His rough edges softened under her influence, and his respect for her grew into profound admiration. Margaret, now Queen of Scotland, embraced her role with a profound sense of purpose. She did not merely adorn the throne, she actively transformed the kingdom. Her greatest impact was on the Scottish Church. She initiated significant ecclesiastical reforms, bringing Scottish practices in line with those of continental Europe, combating abuses and promoting Benedictine monasticism. She was instrumental in improving the spiritual life of her subjects, encouraging the building of churches and supporting the clergy. She also worked tirelessly to civilize the Scottish court, introducing more refined customs, promoting education, and encouraging trade. Her influence extended to fashion, food, and culture, elevating the court standards and bringing it closer to the more sophisticated European norms. Beyond the grand affairs of state and church, Margaret and Malcolm's personal life was marked by deep affection and family devotion. They had 8 children, 6 sons and 2 daughters, all of whom they raised with love and careful instruction. Margaret was a devoted mother, instilling in her children strong Christian values and ensuring they received an excellent education. Malcolm's love for his family was palpable. He indulged Margaret's every wish and deeply cherished their children. Their home life was a rare example of harmony and shared faith in a medieval royal family. The happy ending of Margaret and Malcolm's love story lies in the remarkable success of their partnership, both personally and politically. Their marriage was a testament to enduring love and mutual respect. Malcolm provided Margaret with the stability and security she needed, allowing her to flourish as a queen and a reformer. Margaret in turn inspired Malcolm to be a better king and a more devout Christian, bringing a profound sense of purpose and refinement to his reign. Their influence was so pervasive that Margaret is often credited with ushering in a period of significant cultural and religious development in Scotland, forever linking her name with the nation's progress. Their shared life together ended tragically in 1093. Malcolm and their eldest son Edward were killed during a raiding expedition into Northumberland, fighting against the Normans. Margaret, already gravely ill and heartbroken by the news, died just 3 days later. While their lives ended in sorrow, the legacy of their love endured. Margaret was canonized as a saint in 1250, known as Saint Margaret of Scotland, primarily for her piety and charitable works, but also for the profound influence she had on her husband and her kingdom. Their story is a powerful reminder that even in an age of political calculation, true love, mutual respect, and shared faith could lead to a deeply fulfilling and able partnership, leaving behind a legacy that transcended their own lifetimes and continues to inspire centuries later. Their love was a true and surprising treasure in the often harsh landscape of the Middle Ages. Number 2. Theophanu and Otto II. In the late 10th century, the Holy Roman Empire, a burgeoning power in Western Europe, sought to solidify its legitimacy and expand its influence. Otto I, the first Holy Roman Emperor, looked eastward to the sophisticated and ancient Byzantine Empire for a bride for his son, Otto II. What emerged from this political alliance was a surprising love story between a cultured Byzantine princess and a powerful German emperor, a union that blended 2 worlds and saw a woman rise to unprecedented power and influence. Theophanu was not a princess in the traditional sense of being born of purple, meaning directly from the emperor's ruling bloodline. She was the niece of the Byzantine emperor, John I Tzimiskes, born into the Skleros family, a powerful aristocratic clan. Her background, though noble, was initially deemed insufficient by Otto I, who desired a more direct imperial connection. However, after lengthy and complex negotiations, Theophanu was deemed an acceptable compromise, and a marriage was finally agreed upon to solidify the fragile political relations between East and West. Theophanu arrived in Italy in 972, a dazzling figure from a world of refined luxury and intellectual prowess. She was accompanied by a vast entourage, bringing with her an astounding dowry of Byzantine riches, including silks, jewels, and exquisite works of art. Her arrival was a culture shock for the relatively rustic Western court. She was known for her exceptional beauty, her sharp intellect, and her cultured ways. She spoke Greek, Latin, and possibly Slavic languages, and she was well versed in philosophy, literature, and the arts. Her presence at the Western court immediately introduced a new level of sophistication and grandeur. Her marriage to Otto II, who was then 18 years old, took place on April 14, 972, at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, officiated by Pope John XIII. The ceremony was magnificent, symbolizing the union of two empires. From the outset, the marriage seemed to be more than just a political arrangement. Contemporary accounts and later historians like Tietmar of Merseburg suggest that Theophanu and Otto II developed a deep and genuine affection for each other. Otto II, young and eager to assert his own authority, after years living in the shadow of his powerful father, found in Theophanu not just a wife, but an intellectual equal and a trusted confidant. Theophanu brought with her not only the splendor of Byzantine court life, but also a wealth of administrative and political knowledge. She was accustomed to a centralized, efficient imperial bureaucracy, a stark contrast to the more feudal, decentralized system of the Holy Roman Empire. She actively participated in governance, her name appearing on imperial charters alongside Otto II's, a highly unusual practice for a medieval empress. She also introduced new customs and luxuries, such as the use of forks at meals, a common utensil in Byzantium but virtually unknown in the West. Her influence was subtle yet pervasive, gradually shaping the Western court. Their relationship was marked by mutual respect and a shared vision for the empire. Theophanu often accompanied Otto II on his extensive campaigns and travels throughout his vast domains, offering counsel and demonstrating a keen understanding of political affairs. She was not a passive consort, she was an active partner in imperial rule. They had several children, including a son, Otto III, ensuring the continuation of the Ottonian dynasty. The surprising happy ending of Theophanu's story truly unfolded after a devastating tragedy. In December 983, Otto II died suddenly in Rome at the young age of 28 from malaria. His death plunged the empire into crisis, leaving a 3-year-old child, Otto III, as the emperor. The situation was ripe for civil war and fragmentation, especially with the powerful German dukes eager to seize control. However, Theophanu, despite her immense grief, rose to the challenge with extraordinary courage and shrewdness. As regent for her infant son, Theophanu effectively ruled the Holy Roman Empire for a decade, from 985 until her death in 991. Her regency was a period of remarkable stability and strength for the empire. She navigated complex political intrigues, dealt with rebellious dukes, and successfully defended the empire's borders against external threats. She demonstrated exceptional political acumen and military leadership, suppressing revolts and securing her son's succession. She ensured that Otto III received an education that blended the best of both Byzantine and Western traditions, preparing him for his future role as a truly universal emperor. Theophanu's reign as regent was a testament to her intelligence, resilience, and unyielding will. She held the empire together, ensuring its continuity and paving the way for her son's own influential reign. She maintained the imperial dignity and authority, despite being a foreign woman in a male-dominated world. Her unique background, initially a source of contention, ultimately proved to be her greatest strength, allowing her to bring a unique perspective and sophisticated approach to governance. The happy ending of Theophanu and Otto II's love story is not simply about their personal affection, though that was clearly present. It is about the powerful legacy they built together, and Theophanu's remarkable ability to preserve and advance that legacy against overwhelming odds. Their union resulted in a flourishing empire, a smooth succession, and a period of stability during a critical time. For Theophanu, it was a triumph of intellect, strength, and unwavering dedication, ensuring that her love for Otto and her devotion to their shared imperial vision bore lasting fruit, even after his premature death. She achieved an extraordinary level of power and influence, securing her place as one of the most successful and capable female rulers in medieval history, a truly surprising outcome for a politically arranged marriage. Number 1. Adelheid of Burgundy and Otto I. The mid-10th century in Europe was a tumultuous time, especially in Italy, where rival factions constantly vied for power amidst a fractured political landscape. Into this volatile world stepped Adelheid of Burgundy, a woman of extraordinary resilience and royal lineage whose life was marked by abduction, dramatic escape, and a surprising union with one of the most powerful rulers of her age, a love story that solidified a dynasty and reshaped the political map of Europe. Adelheid was born around 931, the daughter of Rudolf II, King of Burgundy, and Bertha of Swabia. Her early life was steeped in high politics. At the age of 19, in 947, she was married to Lothair II, the King of Italy, son of Hugh of Arles, the powerful King of Provence. This marriage was intended to solidify alliances and bring stability to the volatile Italian peninsula. However, Lothair's reign was short-lived. In 950, after only 3 years of marriage, he died under suspicious circumstances, widely believed to have been poisoned by his ambitious rival Berengar II of Italy. Berengar, seizing the opportunity, immediately declared himself King of Italy, sought to consolidate his power. Central to his plans was Adelheid, as the widow of the legitimate king and mother of Lothair's young daughter Emma. Adelheid represented the surviving claim to the Italian throne. To neutralize this threat and legitimize his own rule, Berengar demanded that Adelheid marry his son. It was a brutal attempt to absorb her claim into his own family. Adelheid, however, was no meek pawn. Despite being a young widow, she possessed an iron will and a fierce sense of dignity. She vehemently refused Berengar's demand, rejecting his son and clinging to her right as a queen. Her defiance enraged Berengar, who saw her as a direct challenge to his authority. In retaliation, he had her imprisoned along with her daughter in a castle on Lake Garda, sometimes identified as Castello di Garda. Her imprisonment was harsh and isolating. She was stripped of her royal comforts and subjected to cruel treatment. Chroniclers of the time, such as Widukind of Corvey and Hotsvitha of Gandersheim, recorded her suffering and determination during this period. Adelheid, resourceful and desperate, managed to communicate her plight to sympathetic allies. Priest chaplain of the castle reportedly helped her to escape. In a dramatic flight, she either dug her way out of her cell or was helped to slip away, fleeing into the night. She took refuge in a nearby swamp, enduring hardship and danger before finding sanctuary in the fortified city of Canossa under the protection of Bishop Adelhard. From Canossa, she sent out an urgent plea for help to the most powerful ruler in Europe, Otto I, King of Germany, who was already expanding his influence into Italy. Otto I, a formidable and ambitious monarch, saw in Adelheid's plea a perfect opportunity to intervene in Italian affairs, assert his dominance, and legitimize his own claims to the imperial title. He gathered his forces and marched into Italy in 951, presenting himself as a chivalrous rescuer. His arrival was swift and decisive. He besieged Berengar's forces and liberated Adelheid. The meeting between Adelheid and Otto was a pivotal moment. She was a beautiful, intelligent, and courageous queen in distress, and he was a powerful, Medic king. Their shared ambition and undeniable attraction led to an immediate connection. In a strikingly swift development, they married in Pavia in October 951, just weeks after her rescue. This union was more than a political convenience. It was a deeply strategic and personally advantageous match for both. For Adelheid, it was salvation and a restoration of her royal status. For Otto, it brought him the undisputed claim to the Italian crown and access to its resources, paving the way for his eventual coronation as Holy Roman Emperor. Adelheid became not just a queen, but a true empress and a powerful co-ruler. She accompanied Otto I on his campaigns, advised him on matters of state, and actively participated in the governance of their vast empire. Her intelligence and political acumen were widely recognized. She bore Otto I several children, including their son, Otto II, who would succeed his father. This ensured the continuation of the Ottonian dynasty, creating a powerful imperial line that would shape European history for centuries. The happy ending of Adelheid and Otto I's love story is multifaceted. Firstly, It is a personal triumph for Adelheid, a woman imprisoned and threatened, who not only escaped her tormentor, but also secured a marriage to the most powerful man of her time, restoring her dignity and status. Their union, though politically motivated, blossomed into a strong and productive partnership. They shared a common goal of building a stable and expansive empire, and Adelheid played a crucial role in its success. She was a beloved figure, known for her piety and her charitable works, but also for her firm hand in politics. Even after Otto I's death in 973, Adelheid continued to wield immense influence. She served as a powerful regent for her young grandson, Otto III, after the premature death of her son, Otto II. She worked tirelessly to secure the empire and ensure her grandson's succession, navigating complex political landscapes with skill and determination. She retired to the convent of Seltz in Alsace, which she had founded, and dedicated her later years to religious life and charity, maintaining her influential position until her death in 999. Adelheid's story is a compelling testament to resilience, courage, and the surprising turns of fortune. From a harrowing imprisonment, she rose to become one of the most powerful and respected women of her age, a key figure in the formation of the Holy Roman Empire and the matriarch of a lasting dynasty. Her marriage to Otto I was not just a political alliance, but a deeply effective partnership that brought her happiness, influence, and a legacy that continues to resonate through the annals of history, proving that even in the darkest of times, love, power, and surprising happy endings could be found.